Let's talk about the number one thing that keeps business owners and service providing professionals from getting paid what they're worth. It's called confession through projection. And if you don't know about this psychological law, you're ripping yourself off in your business. To get the most out of every purchase on your website, you need some solid sales funnels in place. Let me show you step by step how to build some of my personal favorite high converting sales funnels. It's all waiting for you in your free ebook copy of Sales Funnel Cheat Codes. Get yours now at salesfunnelcheatcodes.com. Okay, so it's politics season here in the great United States of America. And one of the things that you will notice, especially if you're not ideologically tied to one of the two political parties, is that there's a lot of confession through projection. It's where somebody accuses one side of doing the same thing that they themselves are actually doing. So those people over there, they're a bunch of authoritarian fascies. And meanwhile, everything that you're accusing them of doing, your own party is doing. And I see it on the left and on the right. And it leads to the whataboutism, but it's a thing that we have. They say that if you stare into the abyss long enough, the abyss stares back to you. Be careful when going out to hunt monsters that you don't become the monster yourself. The thing about human beings is that we project things onto the people and the situations around us, especially things that we don't want to admit about ourselves. So rather than deal with them in ourselves, we project them out onto the outside world, onto other people, and then we go do battle with those other people rather than doing battle with ourselves. It's just a strange psychological phenomena that even those of us who understand it fall victim to. It happens in politics. It happens in relationships. One time I was dating this girl for about 6 months and she was constantly accusing me of cheating. Now, for the record, I've never cheated on a girl, so I thought it was weird that I kept getting these accusations of infidelity from this girl. And about 6 months in, right about the point where I was sick of dating her anyways, she says, let's go to the movies. And I'm like, I'm really not feeling it. I don't want to go to the movies. So I lied to her because I didn't have the balls to just stand up and say, look, I don't want to go to the movies with you tonight. So I told her, babe, I don't have the money to go to the movies. And she says, well, just grab my credit card. I'll pay for it tonight. So I open up her purse reluctantly and I open up her wallet and I pull out her credit card. Funnily enough, the credit card did not have the same name that I knew her as. I knew her as having the last name Rivas, and the credit card had the last name Lamb. And I'm like, Lamb? Who is, I don't want to say her first name on the video, but I said, well, why does this credit card have the last name Lamb on it? And she gets real quiet, goes pale. And she says, actually, I'm married. 6 months of dating this girl, 6 months of being accused of cheating on her. And then I find out that she's married. Now, it was okay because her husband was in jail. So apparently it wasn't cheating in her eyes. But yeah, I was constantly being accused by her of doing the thing that she was actually doing. Confession through projection. Now, we do this in business all the time, especially when it comes to pricing what it is that we have for offer. So I'm going to put one of my clients on blast. I love the guy. I love working with him. I've been working with him for about 3 years now, and he sells amazing products to cannabis growers. I always got to fight him to up the prices on things because he's always saying to himself, I wouldn't pay this amount for this, so I don't feel right charging people this. And one instance, he created these self-watering buckets. It's a 2-bucket system. You plant your cannabis plants in these buckets, and it has a third bucket in the middle, a reservoir bucket that constantly feeds your plants the exact amount of water that they need in order for optimum health. He spent close to 10 years developing these buckets. He got them to where they work exactly how you want them to work. Thing is, they're complicated. They've got a float valve. They've got all kinds of hoses. It's not an easy system to come up with, especially if you're someone like me who has no plumbing skills. Well, this guy, his dad was a plumber when he was growing up. So he understood all of this. He could figure out how to make the center bucket feed the outer buckets the exact amount of water that the plants needed. It came really easy to him. I mean, 10 years of perfecting it, but he was able to understand it. He's able to knock these buckets out. He's able to make them and they work. But for someone like me, It would take me a lot longer than 10 years to get this process right. I couldn't just go to Home Depot, buy the materials, and put one together for myself. So when it came time to price them, he wanted to price them at the cost of the materials, plus the cost of shipping, plus the cost of labor, which was a steal. And I said, dude, you're not going to make any profit. He goes, well, let's add 10% to it. Let's add 20% to it. Selling them at a 10% markup is way undervaluing what these things should go for. But because it came so easy for him, because he got the materials in bulk, he didn't value them as much as somebody like me or a grower out there who wants to make watering easy for their plants. I would value these buckets a lot more than my client, valued them. And so he fought me on it. We eventually came to an agreement. I told him, dude, just trust me on this. We sold them at 250% of what the cost was, and they fly off of the shelves. We can't barely keep them in stock, and people love them. People love, and people say, man, this is such a steal for such a great solution. So what he valued it at and what growers out there that buy it value it at are two vastly different things. But what he was doing was confession through projection. He was projecting what he would pay for it onto the customer, not taking into account the fact that he doesn't realize how valuable it is, because the ability to put them together, the cost of all the resources, because he buys them in bulk, it's all undervalued. It's not a scarce resource to him. It's something that's abundant. The knowledge to build them is abundant to him. The materials to put them together is abundant to him. If you're in the situation where you've spent 15 years honing your craft, getting really good at it, and you can sit down in 20 minutes and knock out a solution for somebody, and you say, well, how much is 20 minutes of my time worth? That's not the real question. The real question is, how much is your solution worth to the other person? And because you see it as abundant, because you see it as easy, you don't value it as much as they do. So you confess what you believe it's worth, and then you project it onto your customer or your client, and you end up underbidding what your actual value is. You see, value is perceived, and what you perceive the value as is not always the same as what your customer or your client perceives the value as. And if you're charging what you perceive it as, you're often almost exclusively undercharging, charging less than the value that your client or your customer perceives the value as. So to get paid what you're actually worth, you need to get out of your own head. You need to quit confessing your own beliefs about the perceived value and projecting it onto your clients and customers. You need to get out of your shoes, out of your perception, and you need to get into their shoes and really understand how bad the problem is that they're trying to solve, how valuable the solution that they're looking for is to them, and price it based off of what they perceive the value as rather than what you perceive the value as. Here's the kicker, and it kind of builds off of what we've already talked about in this video. In any market, there's also a bunch of different perceived values, a bunch of people that perceive the value of our offer at different levels. And there's people that perceive it as just a little bit more valuable than we do. And then there's people that perceive it as way more valuable than what we perceive our offer as. We get anchored by our own perceived value, and then we usually grab on to whatever the closest to that is. The people that are in the market that are looking for the cheapest option available, and because they're so close to our perceived value, it feels safe to raise the price, but just a little bit, just to meet those bottom of the barrel customers. That's what I see a lot of business owners and service providers do, is they anchor with their perceived value and they go only as high as the closest perceived value in their market, and then they stop there. But here's the problem with that. I'm going to take an example from my own business. I write emails and I write sales pages and I write sales funnels for people. For me, it's not very difficult to sit down and knock out 5 emails in an hour's time. I could think to myself, well, how much is an hour of my time worth? How much are these emails worth? I could sell them to people who are not going to pay pay a lot of money for emails. Same thing for a sales page. I could say, well, it takes me about 2 weeks to write a sales page. How much is 2 weeks of my time worth? And who's willing to pay the closest to that? I'm going to go after those people. Well, the problem is those people, the ones that want to pay the least amount, they usually don't have a big email list, or they usually aren't sending a lot of traffic to their website. So I can charge $2,000 for a sales page, or I can charge $75 per email for a 5 email sequence. And the people that are like, yeah, that's a steal, I can definitely afford that, they don't have a lot of people on their email list, and they don't have a lot of traffic going to their website. So I can write that for them, and it's going to be worth, or maybe it's not even going to be worth what they pay it for, because they don't have the traffic going to the sales page to make the conversions. It can be the best copy in the world, but if they're not sending traffic to it, they're not qualified to buy. And so by pricing my services so low, I'm attracting people who can't actually get the value out of what I'm selling. Now, if I charge 3 or 4 times that for an email sequence, or I charge 10 times that for a sales page or a sales funnel, I'm going to repel all of those people who don't have a big enough email list to make it worth the money, who don't have enough traffic going to their site to make it worth the money. And I'm only going to attract the type of people who actually can afford to pay traffic to send to the sales funnel to make those conversions, who actually have a big enough email list to make the money back off of what it costs to pay me to write the emails. By charging lower, I'm actually attracting people who can't leverage what I'm doing for them. So by charging lower in your business for your services, for what you sell, you're attracting a lot of people who can't leverage what you're doing for them to get the result that they need. Say you're selling a course. Say you're selling a course for something and it's $250. And the people at the very bottom, they have to save up $250 to buy your course. Well, depending on what your course is all about, if it was a struggle for them to get the $250 to buy the course, it's probably going to be a struggle for them to take what they learn in the course and actually get results. You're attracting a bunch of people who are going to leave negative reviews, who are going to say, oh, I got the course and it was a lot of good information, but it was too difficult to implement and it really wasn't worth the $250 that I paid. And the people who could easily implement it, who it makes sense to actually sell your course to, they're going to look at it and they're going to say, $250, that's it? How good could this course actually be? So by confession through projection, what you're doing is you're attracting people that you can't actually help. You're attracting people who can't get the results that you actually can deliver. You're repelling people who need your services and could get those results. You're also ensuring that you're working 5 times as hard as you should be, and you're 5 times less successful than you should be. So be aware of confession through projection. When pricing your products, when pricing your services, make sure that you're not attracting the lowest bottom of the barrel people who can't actually leverage what it is that you offer. Make sure that you're not repelling the people who actually want to pay for what you can provide. You'll make yourself a lot more money. You'll save yourself a lot of work, and business and life will be better for you. That's just my 2 cents on the matter. I'm interested. What was an aha moment in your business when you realized, oh, I'm not charging enough? What was it that made you finally realize that got you to increase your prices? And what was the result? What happened when you increased your prices? I'd love to hear about it. Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, make sure you hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and share it with a business owner that you know that needs to hear this message. And last thing, check out the other 2 videos that YouTube is recommending. I know you'll dig them. I'm Nathan Frazier. This is Forbidden Marketing Secrets, and I'm out of here. Deuces.